So, I want to tell you a little story about a long flight on a C-130. We had spent the night. Actually, we had spent a couple of days up in Norway, Boda, Norway, up above the Arctic Circle. Got our blue nose, and it was a cold, crispy launch. I don't remember the season of the year, but it was winter time. And when we at the hotel that we were staying in uh, was uh, was in a little town. We arrived that night before, kind of late. I think 8, 9 o'clock. So everything was already, you know, by the time by the time we put the airplane away and actually got to the hotel, it was probably close to 10, and the lights were blown out and the carpets were rolled up at probably 7:30, 8 o'clock. So, anyway, we drank dinner and ate whatever you had in your kit bag, and I had a cup of noodles, a ramen cup of noodles, and a bag of cream of chicken noodle soup, right? Or cream of chicken soup. So that was all I had in my kit bag by the end of this, couple day deployment. So that was going to be my meal for the whole flight, the whole next day, honestly, because we had like a 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning show to head back, and you know, at 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning, nothing's open in this sleepy little town either, or the airport. So anyway, we got on the plane, fired everything up, uh, took off, and we were flying straight back from Boda, Norway back to Rota, Spain. And it's a long flight. That, I want to say, I mean, in a hurricane, that's a long flight. It was somewhere in the 6, 8 hour range, I seem to remember. So I was the radio op and playing the weather guy, which back then we had a weather radar, and if the pilot saw something coming up, they'd ask you to scan it with the radar and guide them through the thunder boomers. So my job too was to make the radio calls when we're over water, to make radio calls and give our positions. So I had kind of charted out. All right, well, halfway through this is when um, drinking coffee and water isn't going to cut it anymore, and I'm going to eat that cup of noodle soup, right? So in the C-130, there's a little galley, and you have these what are called hot cups, and you can put anything. They're stainless steel. Put anything in them. Plug them into the wall. You turn the knob, and it superheats just about any any anything you put in it. So we get to ding ding. We get to about the 4 hour mark. I'm like, "Ugh." And everybody else, they've got things like Kipper snacks, and I remember the flight engineer, we called him Purple Haze. He had this bottle. I don't know where he got this thing, but he had this glass bottle of pickled pig's feet. Right? I don't care how hungry I am. I'm not eating pig's feet. So, sometimes when you get in those situations, if somebody's got something extra, it kind of becomes a smorgasbord of, hey man, you want this, you want that. But we were all at the uh, end of our rations, so all I had was this cup of soup. So I heat up some water. I uh, poured my powdered chicken noodle, cream of chicken noodle soup, on top, poured the water in, and very carefully put the lid back on the ramen noodles cup, and we're talking one of those big styrofoam cups, and I set it in the galley sink, and I put my NATOPS, which is a big honking what to do book, how to fly a 130 or how to work one, book on top in the galley to hold the lid on. So went back to make some more, reports and check the weather and log whatever. And I can smell, I'm like, Oh my gosh, it smelled so good. I'm starving here. I literally haven't, it was my intro to fasting unintentionally. Haven't eaten in basically 24 hours, and I can smell I can smell this chicken noodle soup as it's over there soaking into the noodles and they're getting all plump and tasty, and I'm like, mmm. So finally I'm like, yeah, it's been like a half hour. They're gonna be delicious. I slide the natops off to the side. I grabbed that cup and I went whoop. I was like, oh my God. It was super light and I'm thinking, what? And I pulled the lid back and I looked inside and there was like one noodle wrapped around the outer edge of the cup that was stuck to it, and there was a hole in the bottom of the cup. So, little education about C-130s. They have a galley sink, and that sink has a drain that goes outside the airplane, and it works through differential pressure, meaning there's pressure inside the plane and there's less pressure outside. I had set my cup over that drain. The pressure from the airplane had pushed a hole in the bottom of that cup, sucking all my noodles out across the side of the airplane, creating a great aroma, but no food. I was hungry.